Good day guys, Austin here, and in this one today, we're taking a look at this. Now this is a Nintendo Emulation System, a little project that I come up with to push this kind of little gaming boxes to the limit. Now as we've seen recently, we've obviously got the Nintendo Classic Mini. This is proven to be gold dust. This is hard to find. Even if you do, you're going to be paying exorbitant amounts of money. Hopefully in the future they will release a new batch and people will be readily available to get their hands on it. But for now, it's just gold dust. Even now, if I did get my hands on one, it would literally just sit on a shelf. So what I've done is I've made my own that I can make my own and, well, enjoy on my own. I've taken the ethos behind it all and the kind of the vibe that was going on with it. It's got the same case, except this time we've got USB on the front, so you can add any USB adapter. We've got the same power on the back and all that kind of stuff. It's all good to go, except this one can play Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, Master System, NES, Super NES, Mega Drive, X32, Sega CD, arcade games that you could ever imagine, and the top 100 PlayStation 1 games. My setup is elite. I just want to make the most of this little setup. I love the idea. I love having all my classic retro games in one little box at an affordable price. This whole thing cost the same amount, if not less, than making, or buying should I say, one of those NES Classics. Retail price as well. Not the stupid prices that you buy on eBay. I mean retail price. Except mine can do a lot more, and it looks beautiful while doing it. I have done all the hard work for you guys. I'm giving you everything that you need. The information, the guide to get everything working. It's pretty much plug and play. There is a few steps that you need to jump through to get it to this kind of look. But of course, if you just want to have the games and get it up and running, you don't need the box. You can just do the Raspberry Pi itself. Now yes, that is it. It is running through a Raspberry Pi. Except you don't need to know any code, any way to work it. I've done it all for you. I've made the theme. I've made it match the NES Classic. I've made the box art show up. I've made all the videos show on there. I've put all the information on there. I've put all the systems on there. You just need to put it all together, and this video will show you how to do that. Within half an hour, you guys will have pretty much every game that you could ever imagine from back in the day at your fingertips with just a click of a button. And that leads me on to the other one. I've even modded a Nintendo official controller because I hate the little gooey USB ones. I've modded it so it can use a USB. Something that Nintendo never did, and something that I absolutely love, because that means that I can then play it on all my other systems as well. But for this, I'm just going to show you on this one. Of course, you can also use Bluetooth controllers, PlayStation 3, Xbox, any USB controller that you can throw at it. So you don't have to go on that route if you don't want to. It's completely open to you. But what I've given you today, or about to give you, is all the tools so you can do it yourself in a simple way. It's simply Austin. We push it to the limit, but we make it nice and simple. So I'm not going to waffle on. You know what we're going to do today? We're going to get stuck in and make this push to the limit better than any of those dodgy Kickstarters with Atari boxes and all kinds of stuff. Just get this sorted, will ya? So without further ado, let's get stuck in. So let's take a look at the box itself. This is how mine came. I got mine from Alibaba. It was going through some crazy prices online when I was buying mine. So I went straight to the dealer, got it from Alibaba. He shipped me a sample out, and this is what came. It cost me $15. They are going from roughly about $15 to $30. Mine was $15 plus $7 shipping. So buyer beware on that stuff. You can get them from Amazon and eBay. They do seem to fly off the shelves, so once they're on there they will fly out, but keep an eye out. You will and should be able to get your hands on these. I will put some links in the description which may aid you on your quest. Inside then, it's nicely packaged, it looks awesome, it feels awesome, the plastic is high quality, it's of a good standard, and it even comes with a little screwdriver to get you up and running also, which is, I think, a nice little touch. The case itself then, like I said, it's quality plastic, it's been well molded, it feels quality when you touch it. It's got the power on power off reset on the front, along with 2 USB ports and a couple others we'll see in a second. It's got SD slot on the side, it's got HDMI 3.5 jack and power on the rear, and underneath there's a little tiny boxy thing that you can unclip to put your spare SD cards, trinkets, diamonds, weed, whatever it is you want to hide in there. It's all up to you. And, well, the box itself. Open it up, the hood, and you've got 2 more USB slots and an Ethernet slot on there. Of course, the Pi 3 does come with Bluetooth and Wi-Fi standard, so it's a nice little touch that it's there, and it's a nice little touch for me that it's hidden away because, well, I'm not going to be using it. The case itself inside, it does come with your screws for putting it all together. It comes with 2 to attach your Pi to the actual box itself to keep it all sturdy, and a little instruction guide to show you where to put your jumpers onto your GPIO pins, so your power on, power off, reset, USB and all that kind of stuff works pretty well. Yeah, I have to say that this is probably one of the, if not the most well made and best cases available on the market. Of course, it's not 100%. There is some, you know, little additions, tweaks that I would like to make to it, but the best that's out there now, I would say this one all over. So I would say even at the higher end of the bracket, it is worth that $30. There's also a place to put a little fan there if you want added cooling. I've not had any issues up to now, but I've got a little heat sink that I always add onto my Pis, and for now it's been serving me well. As you can see, this is how it looks side by side, the kind of size that you're going to be looking at. It is identical to the size of the original NES Classic Mini, and once you put the Pi in there, it's as snug as a bug. Everything is where it should be. Everything, if I was going to design one of these things, is probably where it should be. It just slots together pretty damn well. One thing that I would say is when you're putting the Pi into it and you're screwing it in, don't do what I did. The Pi should go next to the, the screw should go next to the GPIO pins on both sides, and the ones furthest to the bottom there, they should be the case screws which hold that in place. The SD slot is accessible, like I said, and everything goes together pretty damn well to give you probably the best case for a Pi, not just NES case, but case in general to be using for everyday use. I think this is pretty damn top-notch stuff what they've made here. Hats off to you, Retro Flag. So when it comes to controlling your little setup that you just created, you're going to need a decent controller. Now, of course, you can go for cheaper ones, or you can modify an official Nintendo into USB, which is obviously what you need in order to run through your Raspberry Pi. Now, of course, like I said earlier, Raspberry Pi gives you Bluetooth, which means that you can use these also. This is done by 8BitDo, and it's a remake of an NES pad, but as you can see, it's also got the shoulder buttons and 4 face buttons, kind of like the SNES controller, which means that it's awesome for SNES games. This one is one stage further even more. It's got 2 analog sticks on the front, and also on top, you've got the triggers and the R1 and R2, which gives you the same setup as a PS1 controller, which means that as you can play PS1 games on this, it's perfectly adapted to do so and fits the looks also. Something else that I tried to make fit the looks is obviously the front end. Now, this is the GUI that you can see when you choose first off which system you want to play on, and then once you go into that system you can choose which game you want to play on also. Included in there is also last played, so it keeps track of the games that you've played in order. Also your favorites, you can save. I've put mine in there for now, but you can change, delete, do whatever you want. It's all up to you at the end of the day. And of course the complete list A to Z if you don't want to go through each individual system. Now, the front end itself, this is running through RetroPie, which is then running Emulation Station. It's the most responsive, you can glide through this without any lag, hindrance, anything whatsoever. So for me, it's top notch. The theme itself is made by Rookage. It's the NES Classic theme. Hats off to you, mate. I'll put links in the description down below for any relevant information revolving around this. I know that he has just released a SNES version. Now, of course, that would be awesome, but because this is an NES build, I'm going with the NES build of the theme, and I think it suits it pretty damn well. I've included the box art, I've uploaded also the video snaps, the wheels, anything that's relevant to this system in terms of information, all the artwork, and the games itself. I've added on there for me. Now, of course, when it comes to you guys, I can't give you the full image. I can't give you all the games. That would be naughty of me. So what I've done is I've left all the games out. You can add the ones that you own, and it should populate and do it pretty damn well. It's easy enough to do, and of course, as always, it's the internet. People will download this. People will share loaded versions of this build. In other words, complete ones. It's just that because of ethics, morals, and of course the law, I cannot share my complete build with you. But someone will. I'm sure they will. Anyway, let's get stuck into actually getting this set up. First things first then, what you're going to need to do is obviously download the image. Now I'm going to put a link to my official build in the description down below, but like I said, make sure you check out the comments because I'm sure that people out there will build their own versions of this and share them and share with the community. I cannot do that due to circumstances which I've just talked about, but once you've got it downloaded, however big that image is, you're obviously going to need an SD card of that size or over. That's just common sense. Once you've got all that, in the description down below, there'll be 2 links to 2 programs. Make sure you install both of those and you'll now be ready to rumble. Right, put your SD card in your computer, load up the first program, which is SD Formatter. You'll see something like this. Make sure at this stage, double check, triple check, every check that you can ever imagine that you've got the right drive here for your SD card that you just put into your computer. Once you've got all that sorted, it's a simple case of clicking format. Now sometimes your SD card might play silly beggars, it might give you an error there. Reformat again until you get this format complete. Everything's tickety-boo, quids in. Once that's done, exit out. Now your SD card has been formatted, it's good to go, and now what we can do is put our actual image upon said SD card. So, next program that we're going to use is Win32 Disk Imager. Now, this one, again, pretty damn simple. Image file at the top here. All it wants, or all it's asking for you to do is look for your image that you've just downloaded. As you can see, I've got mine here. Click on it, click open, and it should add it to this little line here. Everything should be good at this point. Next thing you need to do is, again, and I cannot stress this enough guys, to get your device or your drives correct at this point. Mine again will be my L drive. However, triple check every check you can imagine, because a simple case of clicking right now will overwrite whatever is on any drive, no matter how big it is. So make sure you've got the right one for your SD card. Once that's done, then click right. It'll say, do you sure you want to do this? Are you really sure? Click OK, and then go make yourself a cup of tea, strike open a beer, crack open a fag, whatever which way round that is. Do whatever it is, because this can take some time depending on how big your image and your SD card is. So see you in a second.
5 minutes later.
Right, so the first time you boot it up, you should get this kind of intro going on. It's one that I put together to hide all the loading stuff. However, the first time you do boot this image on your system, it may come up with writing while it's doing all its configuration. It's embedding itself in your system, so it may look a bit messier than normal. However, you should get through to the end stage, which is obviously the GUI and you playing your game, but be aware that on the first load, it may be a bit jumbled up at that stage. It is running Emulation Station, and I have set it to hopefully reset the controls as soon as you load this up. So as soon as we do get into Emulation Station, you'll be greeted by some ambient tunes. You should see the GUI going on, and it should ask you well, to set up your controller, to be honest. If you're using a Bluetooth controller, you do need to plug something USB wise into it to get it set up properly, so then you can go in and set up the Bluetooth controller and actually pair it with the device. But if you're using USB or one that is natively configurable with this, then you should be good to go. At that stage, all you need to do is click on whatever it is you're going to be controlling it with, and then go through the options. And quickly gonna go through all this: left, right, start, select, A, B, X, Y. Be aware with the A, B, X, Y, the Nintendo layout, not Xbox. So if you're using an Xbox controller, the A and the B will the opposite way around. Same with the X and the Y. I don't really want to be messing around with all this stuff. I don't really mind. So we'll quickly scroll down to the bottom. Of course, you can configure all those keys depending on what kind of controller you're using, but for me, I just want to get through that so I can get on with showing you what's going on. Okay, the last bit is hotkey enable. This is a new addition that they brought in a couple of months ago. This is the key that you would press to activate some kind of command. So the obvious one is while you're in a game, if you was to press select, in other words, if I was to press select on the hotkey enable, then from that day forth, if I was to press select and then start while I'm in a game, it would exit out and bring me back to the main menu again to select another game. And there's other commands that you can do, Google all that kind of stuff. It's too much for this video. But once all that's done, then click OK. And that's it. Job is done. You are now able to game and peruse all the systems, load them all up, and enjoy yourself with this little setup. So say for example, I want to play a PlayStation game. Let's have a go of, I don't know, Spyro. Simple case of clicking on it. It should give you a little splash screen to say we're now loading it, and it should jump straight into it. I've got bezels enabled, I've got everything running, which should get you straight into the games. Now, the only thing that I will say, I've configured this on a 1080p TV, which means that the bezels are set up for a 1080p size screen. If you've got a different ratio screen, if you've got a different size screen, different resolution, there may be a little bit offset. It's a simple case of getting into the actual menu. Again, hotkey. It will bring you up to this. For me, on my controller, I'm pressing select and X. That should give me this menu. It's a simple case of going into settings, on-screen display, on-screen overlay, and then going into scale, and you can mess around, disable the overlay if you wish, or another way that you can do it is going into video, and then where it says the custom aspect ratio, you can configure those. Say for example you're playing the Game Boy ones, which has got a tuned bezel. In other words, it's not the full size of the screen, they're actually fitting the bezel itself. Keep on messing around with those until you get it to fit, and then you should be good to go. That's about it. I think that's all you should be knowing at this stage. So once you have done that, you need to save it. So go into quick menu, and then save as core overrides, and then whenever you play a game on that system, it will always have the same bezel. But make sure you have a little play around first, see what you like, all that kind of stuff. It should be good to go as standard. Most people have got 1080p TVs, but just in case you haven't, at least that gets you sorted. Right, let's get back into the game, resume. So there you go, that is now the game's working, that's the front end working, that's everything set up. Oh my god, I'm too good at this. So if I was to press select and then start, it brings me back to the game choice menu. I can choose whatever I want again, and well, you're at your own pleasure. So when it's come to the controller, like I said, I wanted to use an official Nintendo controller for the NES. Now obviously these don't come with USB as standard, so I had to modify one. So what I did was I picked up a cheapo one, which was nigh on exactly the same as an official NES pad. And for being perfectly honest, it was kind of alright as a USB Nintendo controller. It wasn't 100%, especially in terms of the aesthetics, which meant that, well, I had to change it out. So first things first, and I cannot guarantee every one of those USB controllers will be the same as the one that I'm opening. They're all just generic. I can't even give you a name. It just came in a plastic bag, so yeah, it's luck of the draw with those. On the plus side, they are about $3 or something that I got through Amazon, so take your chance if you want to. Now, obviously, we have to transfer everything that's inside one into the other. That's the easiest way I could do it. You can do the soldering route and all that kind of stuff, but for me, I like to do things the easy way. So what I did was I got my official Nintendo controller, I unscrewed it all, I pulled out the gubbins from within. Now, this is also an ideal opportunity, once you've got the electrics out of there, to take your plastics and your rubbers and to take them into the bathroom, give them a good soak, a good scrub, and well, get them all soaked up. when I opened mine, as you can see on the desk here, it was full of, well, people's usage over the many years that this has been abused. So it's a good idea to get it cleaned out, ready for you to put your new setup together. So it's not exactly rocket science. Then go to your USB from your unofficial setup. As you can see inside mine, it's, well, very much different from the size of the board from the official setup. Obviously the years have graced us with better electronics boards, and of course this is only a cheapo one, but in terms of the layout it's identical, which means that it fits almost perfect inside the official Nintendo one. Now, something that I did have to do was there was two little prongs which keep the official board in place. I literally had to just snip these off. There was nothing I could do to get around this. I literally took a pair of snips, just taken off the plastic, and then it was a case of applying the unofficial USB board so everything was aligned in place as perfectly as I could. Now there is at this point a little bit of fiddling to get around it all. Then it's just a case of putting your wires back in a position, put it all together. If I was you, I would put just a few screws in place at this point just to test your buttons to make sure they're all working and nothing slipped out of place. But once you have got the back on there and everything is put as standard, then it's not going anywhere. I've been using mine now for about a month and I've not had any issues with it since then. The buttons are exactly the same feel and setup as the official one because you are using the actual mechanics of the buttons from the official one, so there is no difference there. It is literally just a case of the electronics and the USB at the end to get it to work with a USB setup. So I think we've just about covered everything to do with getting this set up today, guys. There is other things that you need to take on board, of course. When you're doing this, you don't need to add the case. The case does nothing for it. It's just a way of it looking the part. You can use this image straight from a Raspberry Pi using whatever controller you want to use. It's completely open to you. It's your build at the end of the day. If you just want to play the games, then you go ahead. I myself thought I'd share with you something like this so you can get the best out of the complete package when it's all put together with the theme, the splash screens, the intro, the games, everything rolling and kind of using its own thing. I do have to thank people that have been involved in this. Rookage for his amazing theme. I tried to make one myself, but to be honest, it's just taking too long. It's great for other people in the community to get involved and do this kind of thing. I have edited a few of the themes to make it go with this. I've added splash screens, I've put my own bezels on there. There's a load of stuff going on. Thank you to the Emulation Station team for making this amazing, and of course the RetroPie guys for making the backbone to make all this happen. Everybody in the community for doing whatever they do, and for you guys for lasting this long while I'm waffling on. There is some caveats though, guys, especially with the case. The power switch, if you was to power off and you didn't save anything, it's not good. There is some scripts. I'll put a link to ETA Prime's video. He has got an awesome way of setting it up so it's safe for you to use those buttons. In other words, the reset and the power switch. Of course they work completely, but as everything electronic, if you just pull it out of the plug, sometimes you can have errors, and well, it's just not cricket at the end of the day. So I'll give you a link in the description to his video to help you with that one if you want to go on that route. But other than that, I think we really have covered everything now. I've waffled on for far too long. It has been an absolute pleasure as always though bringing this to you guys. Again, if you've got any ideas, if you've got any cases, if you've got any builds, anything, share them with me, share them with the community, share it round with everybody. It's the only way we make magic with all this. But as always, thanks for joining me today, guys. Please like, please subscribe for God's sake, but please, most of all, you have a good day. Laters!